A failure that was the beginning of a triumph. Friendship that contributed to the development of the talent of a real master. A provincial town gathering guests from around the world. Trostyanets Museum and Exhibition Center. A few centuries ago, it was a luxurious mansion where exquisite music sounded and conversation were held in high society. A few decades ago, it was a neglected, abandoned building where even the walls collapsed. But today, it is the pearl of Trostyanets, where you can learn about history of several prominent estates and the lives of prominent people. In the summer of 1864, a little-known Petro Tchaikovsky arrived in Trostyanets, then still a village. It would take only a few years, and his name would be heard by the whole world. And it all began here, with the storm. The Overture, The Storm by Petro Tchaikovsky. Overture to Ostrovsky's drama. One of those works of the composer which is very rarely performed. The work that is least spoken about when talking about Tchaikovsky's music, about his work. After he completed the second course at the St. Petersburg Conservatory, one of his teachers, Rubinstein, gave him a task for summer to write a big overture. Tchaikovsky dreamt of spending the summer with his sister Alexandra in the village of Kamenka, Kiev Governorate. But obviously he realized that such a task requires concentration, solitude. So he comes to Trostyanets, in this small village on the estate of Prince Golitsyn. It was no accident that he chose the topic. It was his favorite drama, which he had long dreamt of putting to music, and he did it in our town. In Trostyanets, Tchaikovsky got something that he hadn't in St. Petersburg. On the one hand, peace and solitude, and on the other, refined society and safety. The composer did not need to think about his daily bread. Later, he recalled Trostyanets as something fabulous. Never before had he been surrounded by such luxury and splendor. He spent the morning and the day at work and on lonely tours. Lunches and evenings were in the company of the prince and his guests. This could not but inspire creative work, and the future composer approached it with great responsibility. He wrote a plan for himself as an obedient student who performs a task. On some papers there where he performed another task. It seems to be with instrumentation. He arranged Schumann's symphonic dances or some other work of the Romantics, Western European. He himself sketched a plan that this is the introduction, this is the life of Katerina, while so quite calm with her dreams of the future. Her life before she got married, and then everything changes. He noted that there must be changes. And this is her life, which has changed, and not for the better. But she continues to dream. There are still such glimpses, rays of some hope. And then comes the feeling of a storm, as a symbol of waiting for something incredibly tragic, which then happened to Katerina, as we know. Katerina is the main character of the play. Since childhood, she was grown up in an atmosphere of motherly love and affection. But after marriage, she fell into disfavor with her despotic mother-in-law. Later, she fell in love with her nephew, the same kind of tyrant as her husband's mother was. Secret meetings began. Tormented by remorse, she confessed to her husband of betrayal in the presence of her mother-in-law. After that, her life, which was not sweet before, turned into hell. He takes this lyrical line as a basis for his overture, The Fate of Katerina, distinguishes it from other plot lines of Ostrovsky's drama. He acts as a romantic, as a creator who lived and created according to the laws of this artistic time.
В певний час, яка жила і творила за законами.
This is a very interesting topic. And the theme of tragedy, it was typical of romantics. A dream that simply cannot come true. But tragedy is like a triumph of love. That is what he understands is the heart of Ostrovsky's play.
Але мрія, трагедія як тріумф кохання. От що у нього в його розумінні Островського п'єси.
Katerina dies, but for Tchaikovsky it is the triumph of her love. She wins, her spirit wins. The power of her spirit, her dream wins, although she's no longer alive.
Її вже немає. Це взагалі дуже характерно для романтики.
We know about the stay of Petro Tchaikovsky in the Golitsyn estate, and about the process of working on the overture from several of his letters. If it were not for these letters, we would not have even known that he was here. He writes the first letter to an unidentified person on the way here, and he asks for money in this letter. It states that, I ask you to send this money to the village of Trostyanets, Kharkov Governorate, to the estate of Prince Golitsyn. Another letter is written to his sister Alexandra. He writes that he feels very quiet, calm, he sees no one but Golitsyn, and the work on his musical piece is progressing quite well. In the 2 months, July and August, that Tchaikovsky spent at the Trostyanets estate, he wrote the overture to Ostrovsky's The Storm.
Я ще, знаєте, що не сказала? Що твір триває 15 хвилин, там, плюс-мінус. Це аж ніяк не увертюра до драми.
I nearly forgot to say another thing. The piece lasts about 15 minutes. This is not an overture to drama. Well, how would we listen to it? Would you sit and listen to the 15-minute overture in a drama theater? Tchaikovsky conceived an overture to a drama as a fully-fledged, independent, completed symphonic work.
Це, по суті, була його така перша симфонічна поема. Потім в нього будуть його знамениті, це Ромео і Джульєта і Франческа.
In effect, this was the first symphonic poem. Still ahead of him are his famous Romeo and Juliet and Francesca da Rimini.
Тростянець, поблизу Сум.
But the storm can be viewed and interpreted from this point of view. Trostyanets, near Sumy. A great place, and the town is beautiful, a wonderful park. And this, judging by the letters written by Tchaikovsky and his biography described by biographers, is his first contact with Ukraine.
Це, мабуть, його перше таке торкання України, коли знов...
This topic may be interesting for psychologists of creativity, because the composer's genetic memory gets awakened here.
Це його генетична пам'ять.
After this first visit to Ukraine, there would be other visits to other corners of Ukraine. According to biographers, Tchaikovsky spent 7 years of his life in Ukraine. There would be other works inspired by Ukrainian nature. There will be Ukrainian works, but the overture to The Storm was his first attempt at writing. Was it a good one? And what was its fate? It was not received. The first man who did not receive it was Rubinstein. He said that it was too ugly and so far-fetched. I don't remember exactly what he said, but the point was that Tchaikovsky overplayed his hand in the drama and orchestration, and it couldn't be performed.
традиції тут не наслідуються.
He said that no tradition in this work is observed, and his friend La Roche, the future famous critic, supported Rubinstein.
Підтримав Рубінштейна. І нещасний Чайковський так і закинув цю увертюру.
And the unfortunate Tchaikovsky abandoned this overture. It was never performed during his lifetime, and the notes were not published. Tchaikovsky took advantage of this his achievement. He partially used melodies, some separate themes in his other creations, but never in the form of a whole work. This can be traced. But that's not the point. The overture was still performed, but after the death of the composer, by the orchestra under the direction of Glazunov, 3 years after Tchaikovsky's death.
Під орудою Глазунова, через 3 роки після того, як не стало Петра Ілліча.
Tchaikovsky recalled, Rubinstein got angry with me only once. After the summer holidays, I brought him the overture called The Storm, in which I made many mistakes in form and instrumentation. He was upset and said he was taking the trouble to teach the art of composition in order not to create fools. His friend La Roche called The Storm a museum of anti-musical curiosities. Thus, Petro Tchaikovsky could not take the level set by him. But modern art historians have a completely different look.
І отут питання, чи справді...
And here's the question. Was this work really so immature? Yes, immature. But we can say that an immature work is only the beginning. And perhaps here it would be possible to look differently, that this is precisely the work that showed us Tchaikovsky as a romantic composer.
Твір, який показав нам Чайковського.
And he was an absolute romantic. It was the 19th century when this style of romanticism flourished, when Liszt and Bizet worked. The 19th century is generally the heyday of romanticism in various forms.
Бізе. Правда, це 19 сторіччя, це...
And I think Tchaikovsky was a typical romantic. And in the storm that is concentrated, which would then go on to grow in his other works, you can look at this work in a different way, that this is the clot from which Tchaikovsky would later develop.
Якраз там і сконцентровано те, що потім у нього буде виростати в інших творах. Тобто можна подивитися на цей твір по-іншому, що це той згусток.
Both in terms of theme and the orchestra, on how he works with the musical material, how he works with timbres, the plot that he chose. After all, not all of Ostrovsky's drama entered this overture.
Який сюжет він обрав, адже туди не вся драма Островського увійшла в ту увертюру.
That is why we can say that, to some extent, that a composer who would soon conquer the world with his music was born in Trostyanets, although not only was the composer actually born here, but a Ukrainian man woke up.
Хоча його брат Модест Чайковський, він писав,
Although his brother Modest Tchaikovsky wrote that Petro never paid much importance to his noble origin, and even laughed about it.
Варіанському походу.
He didn't think about it. But now, having found himself in Trostyanets, he perhaps at that very moment also woke up a genetic memory when he simply fell in love with Ukraine.
Прокинулась та генетична пам'ять, коли він просто закохався в Україну.
This awakening will result in extraordinary musical fruits, in which there will be a place for his historical homeland. Today, the town which awakened his historical memory in a great genius reproduces and keeps his memory. And it all began somehow at ease.
Роблячи перші фестивалі Чайковського, які
We began to organize the first Tchaikovsky festivals in this palace. We have seen that every year the audience that comes to the festival gets bigger and bigger. First, it was a one-day event, but the number of viewers increased. And we've already moved to the open-air format on the territory of the round yard, and realized that we should interest people to not only come to the concert to listen to the music, but also so that people could visit the room where Tchaikovsky may have written The Storm in 1864, where he stayed while on holiday, walked up the stairs, and the like. And so, having at our disposal 2 rooms on the second floor, we decided that we should make one room the room museum of Petro Tchaikovsky, and tell his entire story in that room. The story of how he appeared in Trostyanets, the story of his friendship with Von Mack, with others, and so on.
і так далі.
A fascinating, long-lasting and specific relationship with Von Meck took place somewhere else, as well as with other outstanding people. But a lot began here, in Trostyanets. But that's another story, as is the establishing of Petro Tchaikovsky's historical roots.